Jozi. Thank you for spending your time with us this morning. Thank you for speaking to us and sharing your story. We are so glad you are here. So for those people who don't know you, who is Jozi?
Sure, thanks Ian for the opportunity. So I am Jozi Meth. I am 45 years old. I'm a married mum of two boys, young boys. They are 6 and 13 years old. And I co-own a PR and creative design agency based in Durban. My big story is that a month before I turned 45, I was diagnosed with hormone positive breast cancer earlier this year.
So October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we are looking at aiming our content at a younger audience, because a lot of people think that, oh, it's something that only affects older people, so people in their 50s and 60s. Your story with this particular case starts with a month before your birthday. Take us through what happened.
Okay, so I have to admit I am not very good about doing breast self-exams and all the rest of it. I know that it is something that is important and that we should be doing it monthly, but I have to admit I never did. And so the discovery of the lump was actually not my discovery. My husband actually felt it before I did.
Okay.
And this happened a couple of days before Christmas, 2024. And at the time, I put it down to, it's probably just hormonal, it's fine. Fortunately though, I did have a mammogram booked for a couple of days after Christmas, and so I knew whatever it is, we can sort of figure it out then. And so I went for the mammogram after Christmas and before New Year, and they did confirm that there was a suspicious mass, and that I needed to go for a biopsy, which happened early in the new year. Went for the biopsy, and there you go, got the diagnosis a couple of days later.
When you got the diagnosis, take us through that feeling. Like, what did you feel? What went through your mind? You're a mom of two young boys. You're a very active mom. You're very social with, your boys. What goes through your mind when the doctor confirms the diagnosis?
I think the minute you hear cancer, I think anybody's brain and emotions would go into overdrive. So that is what happened in those few moments. However, the way that I deal with anything, and I know that not everybody is the same, my process is very much, I'm going into information overload. So by the time we sat down with the doctor, I had already Googled all the things, watched all the TikTok videos, really just absorbed as much as I could, because that gives me a sense of calmness. And so I didn't panic for long. It was also very helpful that the doctors who initially spoke to me did explain that of all the different types of breast cancer, mine was actually the most common.
Okay.
It's the one they see most often, and it's also very treatable. So there was a very good prognosis for recovery. So that sort of set the tone for, how I approached the whole treatment journey. I think I remained fairly calm throughout. Obviously there was a little bit of anxiety in between because, as you say, yes, I am a mum of two young boys, but I was very positive, like from the beginning, and I think that's because I was armed with knowledge and I also was reassured by my team.
What treatment did you undergo? And also, coupled with that, we hear a lot of horror stories of, oh, radiation is like this and chemo is like that. What were the myths that were debunked for you, and what was your treatment process like?
Okay, so I think the first myth right at the beginning is that mammograms cause breast cancer, so a lot of women avoid them, but actually mammograms are probably one of the best early screening methods that we have available. So that is one myth. Secondly, you asked about the treatment pathway. So my type of breast cancer is hormone positive, and that just means that it grows out of hormones, female hormones. So mine grows from estrogen, which is obviously the female hormone. And the type of breast cancer that you have then determines your treatment path. My type of breast cancer and the stage that it was at, which was very early, fortunately, then determined that my first bit of treatment would be surgery to remove the cancer cells. And I would then go on hormone treatment. So I am currently on tablets to stop estrogen production in my body, and also on a 3-month injection to stop there being any estrogen essentially. And then I did have radiation. I had 20 sessions of radiation, so it took place every day over a month-long period, and it was absolutely fine. And again, the myth is that radiation causes cancer.
And it's gonna burn you, and you're gonna scars, and there's a lot of horror stories. What was it like for you?
The radiation itself, I had been warned that I would have severe fatigue and that yes, I would burn. My experience was really not bad at all. The effects of radiation are cumulative, so you feel it a bit more later on. So the first 2 weeks felt absolutely nothing. You go into the room, they shine the beams on you. You don't see anything, you just hear the machine. So I sort of wondered, what is actually going on. But about the second or third week, I did start to see the physical impact around my breast. So there was darkening of the skin and the itching. Oh my gosh, the itching is intense. And they warn you, that you're not allowed to scratch because you'll cause damage to the skin. That was really the worst of it. Was just the itch and there was a little bit of pain, but it really wasn't bad. The fatigue set in from the radiation at the end of my treatment.
Sure.
So in the 2 weeks following my treatment, I then did feel tired, but not to the level that I had been warned. I had been, told that I probably need to take it easy and take half days at work and all the rest of it. I didn't. I was still able to function. So I think there are a lot of myths. It really does come down to the individual and your attitude and your physical
And it helps
activity.
that you were armed with so much of knowledge, so you walked into a situation, you're aware of what to expect and what's going to happen. So that helped on your part. What was the family and friends support like? Because I'm sure that's something you do rely on as well.
So I think the challenge was managing other people's reactions. Okay, so that was challenging for me because, as I say, I was fairly positive, but obviously your loved ones, they hear the word cancer and they immediately become fearful. My mum in particular, I avoided my mum for at least the first month because I knew that I needed to focus on my journey and I couldn't caretake other people's emotions. But I think once they saw, the fact that I was positive and that I wasn't letting it get me down, they sort of came on board. And everybody has been amazingly supportive. Even just my social friends online, I know that there have been a lot of prayers and support. So and also even my colleagues in my company were amazing because I was obviously out of action for a lot of time this year, or not as focused and attentive as I normally am, but they really picked up the slack. So my community and just my loved ones have been amazing throughout.
What is a mammogram? What happens during a mammogram? People have this idea that they literally take these 2 slabs of like steel and smush it between, and then what is a mammogram and how is a mammogram done?
Well, I can't tell you the technical medical stuff, that's not my forte, but just the experience. So I've heard people saying that it's painful. For me, it wasn't necessarily painful, it's awkward. You can see I'm short. You have somebody sort of hoisting your breast onto, it is a machine. And they've then got to sort of smush you into position. So it's awkward and it's uncomfortable. But it's not painful. And I think that it's worth the benefits that it brings. It's a few moments, it's not a long process. I think I was in there for less than a half an hour. So I think again it's probably one of the best ways to detect cancer early enough for you to have a good prognosis.
Awesome. Jozi, how has this changed your lifestyle moving forward?
Oh my word. So I spent my life just sort of dashing around crazily, never taking a break, thinking that rest was something that showed weakness, wearing my busyness like a badge of honor, always dedicating, time for everybody else and never for myself. So I lived an unhealthy lifestyle. I didn't nourish my body. I was very inactive, you know, apart from rushing around with kids and just general life. I had a desk job. So all of those things, it was an unhealthy lifestyle. And the positive that's come out of this is that I've had to completely change my lifestyle. So it's been a positive wake-up call. The ways that it has changed my life is that I am now very religious about, you know, making time for myself. Self-care, it's such a buzzword, but yeah, I do things like go to Pilates or go for a daily walk or do those things. I'm a bit more mindful about the things that I put in my body. And yeah, I was once a smoker, and my reconstructive surgeon threatened me that she will not operate on anybody who is a smoker. So I was forced to just go cold turkey because it impacts your healing and your recovery. And so all of those sort of health changes have happened as a result of getting this scare. And then it's also just changed obviously my outlook on life. You know, I don't necessarily sweat the small stuff as much anymore. So it's been a positive experience for the most part.
What advice do you have to especially our younger audience? So like I mentioned earlier, we all think 55, 60, it happens older, to much older women. What is your advice to our younger audience now that you've been through this journey and you've I'm sure spoken to other people who've gone through something similar in your own families, who've had people go through similar things? So what advice do you have for them?
I think the biggest thing is just to advocate for yourself and to make the best of the information that we have available. I mean, there are so many resources, you know, you don't necessarily need to go and read, but my biggest source of information was TikTok. And there I got to see that cancer, and especially breast cancer nowadays, as you say, it's not an older woman's thing. I mean, there are women that are, you know, I've followed their journeys, they are as young as their early 20s. Sure. So really, it is, the profile of the disease has changed. I can't tell you, I'm not a medical professional, I can't tell you the reasons for that. Definitely, it's younger and younger women who are facing this. So, you know, we need to take care of our health. You hear all the time, health is wealth, and it's so true. So I would just encourage women, take advantage of the resources available, and the screenings, and just prioritize your health as much as you prioritize everybody and everything else.
Awesome. Thank you once more for spending some time with us. Thank you for sharing your story with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much.
Jozi.